Hi, welcome to section 2.8. Today we're going to cover simple interest. This is the first part of this lesson. So when dealing with simple interest, we're going to be dealing with these two formula. I equals P RT, meaning P times R times T. And the second equation, second formula, A equals P plus I, where here below, I stand the amount of interest, P is the principal amount invested, meaning the original amount that was invested from the very beginning. R is the annual interest rate in decimal form. So you'll be given the interest rate in percentage form, and you just have to convert into decimal form, which we will see in the following examples. T is time, which is given in years, or you have to write it in years. A is the total amount in an account, and you will find A after you determine the interest amount and then combine with the principal amount. So let's take a look at the first example. Suppose $2,000 is invested in an account that earns 7% simple interest. How much interest is earned after 6 years? So looking at the question carefully, if you were to annotate, we know that we're going to be working in simple interest. So if you're working in simple interest, then you use the formula that was provided to you earlier. And then the question is, how much interest is earned after 6 years? So we're looking for interest. Now, if I were to go back to the very beginning, we had two formulas, I equals PRT and A equals P plus I. Now, as I stated before, we're only covering the first part, which is simple interest. So simple interest have these two formulas. So when you see in the question, it says simple interest, you know which set you're going to be working on. And then based on the question, interest, we're going to be using the first equation, the first formula, which is I equals PRT. So now our next tasks are identifying the values of P, R, and T. So if we were to look for P, again, that's the principal amount that was invested from the very beginning, which is $2,000. Next is to determine the rate. Rate is the annual interest rate, which is given in the question 7%. So when you have 7%, just make sure to convert it into decimal, which is 0.07. Next is to determine the time. So if we look at the question, time is given, which is 6 years. So T equals to 6. So once you identify all the values of P, R, and T, then it's just simply working it out and then just solving it. So here on the side, where I wrote I equals 2,000 times 0.07 times 6, following the structure, the order of PRT. So now we're actually going to work it out. I'm going to do this by hand. Now, you can use a calculator to check your mathematician, mathematical work, but here we're going to do this by hand in the event if you were to take this question on an exam and you're not allowed calculators. So first I'm going to do 2,000 times 0.07. So if you were to write this out, work it out, so I would just write 2,000 times 0.07. Now again, I put 0 in front of the decimal so that way I can remember that there is a decimal. It's always good for habit when you're working in the field where you have to work with decimals. So let's work this out. So I'm going to do 7 first. So 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times the second 0 is 0. 7 times the third 0 is 0. And then 7 times 2 is 14. Then I'm going to do the 0 in front of the 7. So 0 times the first one is 0. 0 times the second 0 is 0. 0 times the third 0 is 0. And then 0 times 2 is 0. Now, you don't have to do the 0 in front of the decimal. You just have to work with the numbers that's behind. So I'm just going to add the numbers together. So add it vertically. So 0, 0, 0, 4, 1. So I have 14,000. Now, you got to be careful. When you're multiplying with decimals, then you have to make sure you have to account for all the decimal places. So for 2,000, the decimal at the top is right here. So here we have 0 decimal places, so that's good. But over here we have 1, 2 decimal places. So I'm going to write +2. So the total decimal places is 2. So that means in our final answer, we have to move our decimal point from the very end 2 times. So again, you must determine the total amount of decimal places so that way you can get the accurate answer. So instead of 14,000, it's actually 140.00, or just say 140. So that's the work you have to show when you're multiplying. So 2,000 times 0.07 is 140. So moving on to the next part is we're going to multiply 140 with 6. So again, I'm going to write out the work just like how I did before. And again, it's just simple multiplication. So 140 times 6. So 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 4 is 24. So I'm just going to write the 4 and then carry the 2. 6 times 1 is 6. And then 6 plus 2 is 8. So it's 840 or 840. So our interest amount is 840. So that's going to be our final answer. So let me box that up. So that's all you have to do when determining the interest amount earned after 6 years. So moving on to the next example. So the next example has the same question. Suppose 2,000 is invested in an account that earns 7% simple interest. What is the total value of the account after 6 years? So again, if you were to look closely at the question, we're working with simple interest and we're looking for the total value. So if you were given this problem from the very beginning and it asks you to find the total value, you still have to calculate all this work as shown in the previous example. So you have to find the interest amount, and then after you determine the interest amount for total value, you're going to use a formula A equals P plus I. So again, A is the total amount earned in an account. So after you determine the interest amount, then you just use this formula and fill it in, where P is the principal amount, the original amount invested at the very beginning. So for this example, it's $2,000. And then I is the interest amount, which we found from example 1, which is 840. So you just simply add these two numbers together. So $2,000 plus $840 will equal to $2,840. And that's all you have to do. So again, most of the work is just finding interest. And then once you found the value of I, then you just simply add it to the principal amount when you're looking for total value. So again, our final answer for this example, for this part of the question, is A equals $2,840. All right, we're going to move on to the next example. So example 3, Clyde takes out a loan for $3,500. He pays simple interest at a rate of 6% for 4 years and 4 months. How much money does he pay in interest? All right, so this question is similar to example 1, where we're working in simple interest. Now, the only difference is that in example 1 and example 2, our time was given as 6 years, whereas example 3, our time is 4 years and 4 months. So now we have to work with years and months. So that's going to be a little bit different, which I will show you step by step. Now again, since we're working at simple interest and we're looking for interest, then we have to use the given formula, which is I equals PRT, which is shown right here. So again, you only use this formula when you're looking for interest. But again, just like in example 2, if you're looking for total value, you still have to do this kind of work. But continuing with this example, we have to identify PRT. So we know that the value of P is the original amount invested from the very beginning, which is 3,500. R is the annual interest rate. So the percentage that was given into this problem was 6%. So once we identify that, just convert into decimal form. So it's going to be 0.06 or 0.06 for short. Next is to calculate time. So time is 4 years and 4 months. So just like in example 1 and example 2, when the time was given as 6 years, t was just equal to 6. Now for example 3, we can't just put 4 years. And as I've seen from over the years working with these type of problems, especially when we're working with time, some I've seen where they put 4.4. That's not accurate. That's not correct. So we know that within a year is 12 months. So if we were to work this out, you're going to have to write it as a fraction. So 4 is the 4 months that we got from the problem, and then 12 months is the total amount of months within a given year. So again, just like I said, you have to write this as a fraction to get the correct decimal value. Like I said before, most have I seen, they would just think it's easy to write 4.4. Again, it's not correct. 4.4 is not going to be the same as determine what is the percent for 4 months out of 12 months. So don't think of it in a simple way like that. If you do that process, you're going to write the wrong decimal value, therefore get the wrong answer. So if they give you an amount of months, you must determine the percentage out of 12 months out of the total to get the correct percentage or the correct decimal. So again, I wrote it as a fraction. 4 is the 4 months out of the whole year, which is, again, 12 months within a given year. So once you write it as a fraction, see if you can simplify. So we have 4 over 12. Both of these two numbers can be simplified by dividing by 3. Divided by 4. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. And 12 divided by 4 is 3. So it's going to simplify as 1/3. Then after that, you would just calculate the percentage. Now here, you can use a calculator to determine what is the percentage of 1/3. But most have already remembered that 1/3 is going to be 0.0333 and so on. But we don't usually write the long form because it's going to go on for infinity. So the shorthand would be 0.033 or approximately 0.033. Now that's the decimal form. That's for the 4 months. Since we know that it's 4 years, then we just combine it with the decimal, which is 0.33. So t is actually 4.33 to represent 4 years and 4 months. So like I said, once you're given X amount of months, you must calculate it out of 12 months in a fraction. And then again, once you simplify the fraction, you can use a calculator to determine the decimal value, which is in this example, 0.33. So I combine it and then put it after 4. So t is 4.33. Now, once you identify PRT, you're just going to set up the work to determine the value of I, the value of interest. So the first thing we're going to do is 3,500 times 0.06. So I'm going to write out the work for this. So 3,500 times 0.06. 6 times 0 is 0. 6 times 0, the second 0, is 0. 6 times 5 is 30, so I'm going to put the 0 from the 30, and then carry the 3. 6 times 3 is 18, then plus the 3 is 21. Then I'm going to work with the 0 that's between the decimal and the 6. So 0 times the first 0, 0. 0 times the second 0, 0. 0 times the 5 is 0. 0 times the 3 is 0. And again, I'm not going to worry about this 0 in front of the decimal. My main concern is the two numbers behind the decimal. So I'm going to add the numbers vertically. So 0 here, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, and then 0, 2, 2. So right now we have 21,000. But just like example 1, you want to get the right number. So we have to calculate the total amount of decimals. Again, when you're multiplying with decimal, you want to get the right answer with the decimal in the right place. So again, the first number, 3,500, the decimal is at the very end. So we didn't have any decimal places behind the point. So this is 0 decimal places. Now, whereas over here, we had 2 decimal places, 2 numbers behind the decimal. So we have 2 decimal places. So if I were to combine these two, our total amount is 2 decimal places. So since we're working with 2 decimal places, for our final answer, we're going to start here and then move 2 times. So our true number or final number is 210.00, or just simply 210. So again, it's not 21,000, it's actually 210 when you're multiplying 3,500 and 0.06. So once you determine that value, next is when we multiply 210 times 4.33. So I'm going to write the work out for this. So 210 times 4.33. So 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. So I have a little space. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start over and write space over here. But again, it's the same work as what I did for the multiplication as shown in the other examples. But this time, since we don't have a lot of 0, we're actually going to see other numbers besides 0. So I'm going to write the work starting here. So again, my first 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, now my second 3 times 0 is 0. 3 times 1 is 3. 3 times 2 is 6. All right, now the last number, the 4. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 1 is 4. And then 4 times 2 is 8. So again, as you can see, as I'm multiplying, basically, the second number, I skip 1 space. The third number, I skip 2 spaces, just like that. All right, now we're going to add numbers together vertically. So 0 here, and then 0, 3. 0 plus 3 is 3. 6 plus 3 plus 0 is 9. And then here, 6 plus 4 is 10. So I'm going to write the 0 from the 10 and then carry the 1. Oops, excuse me. So carry the 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. All right, now don't forget, we have to take into account the decimal places since we're multiplying. So here in the first number, 210, there are no decimal places because the point is at the very end. But in our second number, we actually have 2 decimal places. So if we were to look for the total amount, 0 plus 2 is 2. So our total amount of decimal places is 2. So take that into account. Starting from here, I'm going to move to the left 2 times. So instead of 90,930, with taking account of the decimal places, the true amount is 909.30. But sometimes some people wrote 909.3 because they dropped the last 0. But keep in mind that after you calculate it, since we're dealing with money usually have 2 decimal places. So instead of 909.3, you just stick with 909.30. So again, when you're working with calculator, you get this amount, 909.3. But keep in mind that when you're dealing with money, you will just work out $909.30. So again, when you write out the work, you can see right here 909.30 with 2 decimal places. So it's always best that you write it out by hand. And as I mentioned before, in some exams, you may not be able to use a calculator. So this is the process. This is the work you have to show to get full credit. So the interest is 909.30. And then let me box that for our final answer. All right, so we're going to move on to the next example. The next example is going to be the same question, but now our new question is, how much total money must he pay off the loan? So again, looking at this, if you were given this question from the very beginning, you have to look at that we're working with simple interest, and looking at the question, how much total money must he pay off the loan? We have to look for total money, which in this case, A equals P plus I. So if you were given this exact question or this type of question from the very beginning, you still have to calculate all this. You still have to do all this work to determine the interest amount. So once you finish determining the interest amount, then to find total money, you would just use the formula A equals P plus I. So you just have to fill in the value of P and I. So again, P is the principal amount you invested from the very beginning, which is $3,500. So again, since we're dealing with money, it's $3,500. And then once you determine the interest, you put it in I, which is $909.30. So when you're working this out, like I said, it's important you line it up with decimal. As I've seen in the past, where some forget about the decimal and they did not line it up correctly. So you have to first write out 3,500 or 3,500 correctly in decimal form. So some would just start off as this, but they need to remember that since you work with money, you have to account the decimal places for the cents. So once you identify that, now it's easy to add correctly or subtract correctly. In this case, we had to add $909.30. So when you're adding, you must line up your decimal correctly. So that way, you get the correct amount. So 0, 0, 0, 0 plus 3, 3, then the decimal, 0 plus 9, 9, 0, 0, 0. 5 plus 9 is 14, so I'm going to write the 4 from the 14 and then carry the 1. So 1 plus 3 is 4. So our amount or total money that he must pay off for the loan, taking account of the principal and the interest, is $4,409.30. So this is going to be our final answer. A equals $4,409.30. So like I said, when you're writing out the work, as I mentioned before, make sure to write 3,500 in decimal form. If you don't, you might accidentally line up the numbers incorrectly, as I've seen in past years. And I always warn them, Please write out in decimal form. If you do not, you might accidentally mix up your numbers. You might not line them correctly, therefore you won't get the correct value, therefore you won't get the correct answer. And it was just a simple mistake as converting this into decimal, or they forgot to convert into decimal, therefore they didn't line up correctly. So again, it's a simple task on converting this number, 3,500, into decimal. Once you write the decimal with the 20, then when you're adding with the second number, just line up the decimal. Again, this process is the same thing for subtraction. You have to line up the decimal. But for multiplication and division, you don't have to line up the decimal. It's just you only do this for subtraction and addition. Again, it's a simple task, convert into a decimal. Then when you finish with that, then simply line up with the second number and then just subtract or add vertically. But again, for this example, our final amount for total money that Clyde has to pay is $4,409.30.